secular values voters are becoming an electoral force in the United States. Yeah, Rivka, yeah. In the United States. The voting patterns of religious communities in the 2020 US election have been vigorously studied for evidence of shifting allegiances among believers. Less attention has been paid to the non-religious, one of the largest growing demographics among the US electorate. This sector of American voters has shifted from roughly 5% to over 23% in the past 50 years. According to data analysis by Eastern Illinois University professor Ryan Burge, around 80% of those self-identified atheists/agnostics voted for Biden, as well as 70% of those who described their religion as, quote unquote, nothing in particular. He argues, quote, it's completely fair to say these shifts generated a 2 percentage point swing for Biden nationwide. There were 5 states where the gap between the candidates was less than 2 percentage points. Those states being Georgia, Arizona, Wisconsin, Pennsylvania, and North Carolina. 4 of those 5 went for Biden, and the nones were between, meaning none, their relationship is, their religion is nothing or none, and the nones were between 28% and 37% of the population in those key states.
Okay, how can we use this to our advantage? How could we get more political and get these people to become like a voting bloc, and we get these politicians to actually, like recognize us as a force that they need to appeal to? Rivka.
There are people that are forming voting blocs. There's Democratic, Secular Coalition for America and Americans United for Church and State, a separation of church and state. Those are secular groups. And then within those, there were secular Democrats group that did a lot of work on this particular last presidential election. Then there's also the Freedom Caucus, which Jeremy Free Thought, sorry, I got confused. Free Thought Caucus, thank you. That Jeremy Raskin and others are a part of. These are Congress members that are part of a caucus of free thinkers or secularists. Some of them are out atheists, some of them are not, but there's that has actually gotten larger, and that actually is part of what happened in this resolution that just occurred within the House and the Senate against blasphemy and apostasy. A lot of that came out of a lot of these Congress members that were part of the Free Thought Caucus. And that had actually been, attempted several times. This is just the time it's finally been successful. So yeah, it is starting to be, and they've been, but often, we see it within our own organization that there's a reticence sometimes for people to feel like they either want to get involved in politics with secularism or non-belief as quote unquote the identity or the focus of whatever that activism group is. But I think we're starting to see it more because of the rise of the nones, as they say, the non-religious people, and then also the overstepping by a lot of the theocratic actors within the country as well. And that is sometimes a catalyst for making people kind of push back. And then also when you see people like the senator who sponsored the legislation against blasphemy, despite being a religious individual, is supporting a secular resolution, I think that is also a really good message to non-believers and also to believers, especially because secularism is the best protection believers have. And I think that might be a way also to kind of make the coalition larger, is if you can find as many believers willing to join a secular coalition, knowing that it's a protection for them as well.
Okay, so I want to highlight this and congratulate Joseph for the dumbest takes today. For the highest number of dumb takes in one news day goes to Joseph. Okay, this became news because as we showed you, they were like analyze the results of the 2020 electoral, the statistics and stuff, and they came up with new information. This is new information that is based on 2020 results. So that's why all of this is now new information. He's asking, how is this news? It's a trend. This is a trend that's been happening over the last 20 years. Yes, but now we have new information based on the last presidential election in the United States. This is new information, and it's very interesting. Okay, and it was right there on the screen. And Susanna also read it out loud. Maybe pay more attention before you keep making yourself look like an idiot. But come on, like Joseph, like nobody has had this record so far in one live stream.
I don't know. Lauren last week had some pretty heavy hitters.
Oof. Yeah, you're right. Yeah.
So there was another quote from this article that I thought was good. It's called, the heading of this section is called "The New Values Voters." For years, both scholars and pundits have referred to the political impact of quote-unquote values voters in America. What that designation generally refers to are religious men and women whose scripturally based values coagulate around issues such as opposing marriage equality and women's reproductive autonomy. And then they point out that calling religious voters value voters is really a misnomer. It's semantically doesn't make sense because it applies those who are maybe less religious or non-religious, do not have values. And in fact, it also implies that they do not have values that motivate and are demonstrated through their voting behavior. So it goes on to talk about several things in which the voting values of non-religious people are demonstrated in. So, for example, non-religious people place a high value on sex education. Their non-religious values greatly inform their decisions on voting around drugs policy, on science at the ballot box, such as publicly supporting stem cell research. Okay. Yeah. And then there's another section that I thought was interesting called values versus values. On issues that the religious right has held some sway over in recent years, there's evidence of a counterbalance among secular values voters. For example, while the religious have been more likely to oppose same-sex marriage, secular Americans are more likely.
Same thing.
Are more likely to support it, and by significant margins. A recent Pew study found that 79% of secular Americans are supportive of marriage equality, same-sex marriage, compared to 66% of white mainline Protestants, 61% of Catholics, 44% of Black Protestants, and 29% of white evangelicals. There are many additional values that are prominent among secular Americans. For example, the U.S. Secular Survey of 2020, which is the largest survey of non-religious Americans ever conducted, with almost nearly 34,000 participants, found strong support for safeguarding the separation of church and state. Other studies have found that secular Americans strongly support reproductive rights, women working paid labor and women working in the paid labor force, the DACA program, aka like the Dreamer program, death with dignity, and opposition to the death penalty. Rivka, you wanted to say something?
I was going to say that secular survey, I participated in that secular survey, and I would encourage others when they do another one to participate in it as well, because it's a way to gauge what is important to non-religious or to secular voters. And that's also part of why this is news, because this is a new survey with a large amount of people to participate. And it brought up some issues that maybe hadn't been brought up before as things that they might have thought were important, or things shifted positions as to what they thought was important as well. And these are all important as also simply part of the historical record. So when you're looking back and studying how trends came about, or how things changed, or when was the moment when there was a shift, that's why all these things are news. When you're in the middle of it, it's hard to see sometimes why it's as important. But if we didn't have this kind of information about previous eras, we wouldn't be able to talk about the things that happened with such clarity and understanding, you know? And so because we're the ones participating, it doesn't give it any less value, because 10, 20, 30, 50 years from now, this information will be very valuable to people when they're analyzing how someone got from A to B, or where the trend shifted, or where the rise or fall and these kind of things happen. So again, this is just more of this discussion about being able to see beyond your own 40-year horizon and see why it's important in the big picture.
Wait,
yay,
really
doorknob head.
Terrell's is saying that I'm the queen of sexy secular Americans. I appreciate that, but I'm the empress.
Yeah, we have Queen Fabi is the queen. You're the empress.
But she's not an American.
Oh yeah, all right.
So I guess I can be the queen.
We don't have queens in the United States, so you're gonna have to pick something else.
I'm establishing a monarchy of sexy secular Americans.
I like how Rivka's, enlightenment values just got triggered. Like, we don't have queens here in the United States. Okay, get your monarchy away from our
Put
country.
everyone claro, okay.
Like, get that shit out of here.
Oh my gosh.
We need to have more people being triggered by this is good. See, this is the kind of defense of enlightenment values we need, okay? Fuck the monarchy. All right. So should we
Even Susanna's sexy monarchy.
All right. And also subscribe to our newsletter, because if we get removed from all these platforms, at least we could reach out to you. And guys, by the way, if you subscribe to our newsletter, you get a free copy. Where's your copy, Susanna? Get it. We're doing promotion. You get a free. It's not even promotion. It's free. Okay, so if you subscribe to our newsletter, link in the description, you get a free copy of Why There's No God. Come on, like, I'm handing it out for free. Okay, it's a bestseller on Amazon, and you get it for free. So subscribe to our newsletter, and you get a free copy of Why There's No God sent to you. Link in the description.